जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय राधा माधव राधे जय पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय और हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय और हरि बोल जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रजगचार्य स्तोत्र Utkarsha, this divine grace. Abhajnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parajagacharya Shtotarsha, this divine grace. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunimadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tabda Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone for the Saturday Sanga program. Today is a very auspicious day because there are so many auspicious tithis and many appearances and disappearances of acharyas which have happened on this day. As we all know, it is Vasant Panchami, that is the starting of spring. In Mumbai city, we hardly feel that there is something like this spring. We don't feel winter much, what to speak of spring. But other places we find, especially the significance of this is mostly in Sri Vrindavan Dham, because Vasanta Rasa, there are special pastimes that happened in the spring season of Sri Radha and Krishna. Especially Ras Leela, just like there is Sharat Purnima, there is one day of Ras Leela, even Vasant also, Vasant Panchami also, there is a special significance of Ras Leela because the weather is also very splendid and the theme is yellow because all the marigolds and all the other flowers, especially mustard flowers which are there, they give this in the fields, they give a yellow color. So this is why then there is it is known as it is also a yellow color. We find there is so much of an abundance of, especially here in Sridham Mayapur. You see, if you've got a chance to have darshan of the deities even online today, do have it because it's very special. You see, the deities are all fully dressed in yellow and they look very splendid, very gorgeous, beautiful decoration. Along with it being Vasant Purnima, it is also Vasant Panchami. It is also the appearance day of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. It is also the appearance day of Srimati Vishnu Priya Devi, who was the consort of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is also the disappearance day of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is great acharya in our line. It is also the appearance day of Srila Raghunandan Das Thakur, who was also an associate of Sriman Mahaprabhu. As time permits, we'll discuss some things about these personalities. Something about Vasant Panchami. So it so happens that because this word Vasant means the season of spring, and it is also Saraswati Puja. And the reason why is that once Lord Brahma, when he happened to see his own creation, he was struck by the sadness that was there in the atmosphere. And struck by the sadness, because he saw that the trees and forests were all silent, he wanted to change this. So he took some water from his kamandalu and he sprinkles that on earth. And then a goddess appears there. As soon as he did this, there was a flash of lightning and a goddess appears there. And she was playing a musical instrument, which was the veena. And two hands She was playing veena with two hands. She was holding a book and a garland. So this was none other than Mother Saraswati. Brahma named her as such. Saraswati, the meaning is the one who possesses all the rasas and the kalas, all the fine arts and ecstasy she possesses. So Lord Brahma asks her to fill the earth with the colors of music, dance, rasa of education. And so Vasant Panchami, this celebrates the creation of Goddess Saraswati. So this is the so therefore in Saraswati Puja is also commonly it is held, especially in this part of India in Bengal where I am currently situated here in Sridham Mayapur. There are a lot of Saraswati Puja also goes on. Let us discuss something about Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. So a very important personality in our line. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was born in this village in a Vaishnava family, village of Chandpur, and his father was Govardhan Majumdar, and his father's brother Hiranya Majumdar. Both of them were they were directly paying tax to the Muslim governor, Muslim emperor whose name was Nawab Hussain Shah, because they were very big landowners, zamindars. So they had leased and they used to pay a big amount of tax every month. Around 12 lakhs tax it is mentioned that they used to pay. 15 lakhs tax they used to pay to the to Nawab Hussain Shah every month, like that. And you can imagine, I mean, 15 lakh rupees at that time, they say one rupee was enough to buy you 650 pound of rice. That much was the value of 1 rupee just 500 years ago. 650 pound of rice one could purchase by just 1 rupee. And they used to have their income was what 15. Their income was 20 lakhs, out of which they used to give 15 lakhs to the emperor monthly. So that kind of richness. So they were the most wealthiest and powerful personalities in the entire of West Bengal. And so they were managing this entire district of Saptagram. And in his boyhood, so Raghunath Das, he receives the best education and he was taught Krishna consciousness by Balram Acharya. And Balram Acharya introduced him to Haridas Thakur. So when Raghunath Das Goswami meets Haridas Thakur, it has such an impact and influence on his personality. He listened to so many stories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and once when he heard that Mahaprabhu has come to Shantipur, so he was so happy. He was only 15 years old when he decided to meet the Lord, and he ran away from home. And when he meets Sriman Mahaprabhu at Advaitacharya's house at Shantipur, so Mahaprabhu recognizes him as his eternal servant. And Raghunath Das bows down at Mahaprabhu's feet. And Mahaprabhu, he gives him the blessing by touching him with his toe. With his toe. And Raghunath Das, he stays there in the Lord's company for several days before returning home. Now, Govardhan Majumdar, who was the boy's father, was very concerned that his boy, that his only son, is very much attracted towards living the life of a sadhu, and was completely disinterested from money and material pleasures. And naturally, Govardhan Majumdar wanted his son to carry on forward the legacy and inheritance. And he wanted his son Raghunath Das to inherit his estate. But he was seeing that the boy is not interested in material affairs. 4 years later, Mahaprabhu again visited Shantipur. And this time, Govardhan was afraid that his son would permanently run away. So then he sent Raghunath Das to Shantipur with guards. He sent guards with him so that better bring him back. This was his idea. So upon again meeting Sriman Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das was crying, and Mahaprabhu embraced him, he welcomed him, but he encouraged him to return home. He said, for the time being, you return back home and live like an attached householder. He gave him this instruction. He said, when the proper time comes, Lord Krishna will guide you towards the life of renunciation. So as of now, you go back home. So then, despite this, now he returns back. Raghunath Das Goswami, he returns back in his house, and there his parents got him married to a very chaste and beautiful girl. And then he was helping his father to manage this whole Majumdar estate. But despite this, within his heart, he was thinking, when that day will be mine, wherein I can leave all of this behind and live the simple life of an ascetic. This is what he was deeply contemplating. Actually, this is also very important. I mean, a big lesson for us that how in our being in our situation, we can do all our duties very nicely, whereas internally, always having the mood and contemplation, when will that day come wherein I'll be able to give up all my attachments and fully be engaged with body, mind, words? I'll be fully engaged in the service of the Lord. Sometimes physically we are engaged in service, but mentally we may be thinking about something else. So are we really engaged? So this is how, that this mood, this longing, this intense longing is a very essential part of devotion. And all our acharyas, they had this. And this contemplation and this deep desire is what Krishna sees and he fulfills at a later date. And so it happened with Raghunath Das also. Raghunath Das, while he was living at home, there was once his devotional qualities were such that even materially he was so successful. It so happened one day that he happened to save his family. So it so happened that his uncle Hiranya Majumdar, he had collected 20 lakh rupees in taxes. Out of that 15 lakh he was supposed to give back and 5 going to keep for himself. 15 he was going to give to the Muslim emperor as tax. But what he did was he gave 13 and the accounts were forged. So now this Hiranya Majumdar took this position of tax collector from from a man who now wanted revenge for losing his job. So this man who became the enemy, he informed the Minister of Finance in that the figures in the account books have been changed. And so the minister and his men, they came to Saptagram to arrest Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar. But both of them were out somewhere else on a business trip. So they happened to meet Raghunath Das and they arrested Raghunath Das. They asked Raghunath Das, where is your father and brother? He said, I don't know. They've gone on some business trip and when they are going to come, I don't know. So they arrested him. But because he was so soft spoken and so sweetly he was speaking to them, they continued to listen. And he told them that he started to preach to them. And he told them, see, my father and uncle are like your brothers. And as such, I am like your son. And then he told them that, see, between brothers, there is always some disagreement, but tomorrow everything will be fine. So this is the way how things happen in a family. So being wise in the knowledge of scriptures, you are like saints. Please do the right thing. So in this way, he spoke so sincerely that these people who had come to arrest him, they were so inspired that they released him. And when Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar came back, the whole matter was settled very peacefully. So Raghunath Das's humility, it saved his family from serious trouble. The very famous festival of Panihati Chidadahi Utsav is it was continued by, it was all by because of Raghunath Das Goswami. So what happens is that now Raghunath Das Goswami was at home. Nityanand Prabhu, he was on tour performing Harinam Sankirtan with hundreds of devotees, singing, dancing. And they happened to, this traveling party, they happened to stay at the village of Panihati. So Panihati is about an hour from Kolkata. So many times, when we go from Mayapur towards Calcutta, we stop at Panihati to take darshan of that place. So this Dahi Chida Utsav happened at that place, Panihati. It's on the bank of the Ganga, Panihati, this village. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he took permission from his father to visit Nityananda Prabhu, who had arrived at Panihati with his traveling party. So his father agreed on the condition that Raghunath Das Goswami has to be accompanied by his usual attendants. When Raghunath arrived at Panihati, he was blessed to see Nityanand Prabhu, who is sitting under a rock, under a very nice banyan tree, surrounded by hundreds of devotees. And Nityanand Prabhu's form is shown with so much of spiritual power. It was as if there is a moon and surrounded by so many stars. So Raghunath Das, from a very far off distance, he offered his obeisances, hoping to remain unnoticed. However, Nityanand Prabhu, who is none other than the Paramatma within our hearts, immediately called out, "Hey, you thief! Come here immediately, come here, you thief!" He called him. Be punished. So Raghunath Das was extremely embarrassed. He slowly came towards Nityanand Prabhu, who immediately seized him and placed his lotus feet on his head. And then, in good humor, the Lord ordered that for punishment you must prepare a big festival and feed all these devotees with yogurt and chipped rice, with chida and dahi. You feed all of them, make a big feast. Raghunath became very happy, and he sent all his servants to go and bring all the necessary ingredients. Many devotees also helped with the cooking. And very soon, a great feast of chipped rice, of yogurt, of condensed milk, and various savories was prepared. In fact, it is mentioned 400 large earthen pots were for the chipped rice alone. 400 large earthen pots were used. So, after a very nice kirtan, all the devotees sat down to honor the prasad. Lord Chaitanya, he himself appeared in a spiritual form, unseen by ordinary eyes, and he tasted morsels out of different devotees' plates. And as they were being popped into his mouth by Nityanand Prabhu, Nityanand Prabhu is going from person to person and taking from the pot of that devotee, he is feeding it to Mahaprabhu. Everybody is looking that Nityanand Prabhu is taking this prasadam, Mahaprasad of all devotees, and he's just putting it, and the food is vanishing into thin air. Everybody is looking, but only those who had the spiritual eyes, they could see. Like Raghunath Das Goswami, he was able to see that actually Mahaprabhu is present there and he is eating all the Mahaprasad of the devotees. So after the feast, Raghunath Das, he distributed gold and jewels to the devotees present. And this wonderful festival is celebrated annually. It is known as the Danda Mahotsav, which means the festival of punishment. In Vaishnava Sanga, punishment is also so sweet. So this is Raghunath Das Goswami, Danda Mahotsav. Nityanand Prabhu, he punished him in this way. Now, because Raghunath Das knew that if I want to receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if I want his association, I need the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And this, because he had this burning desire in his heart, the arrangement happened in such a way that he got the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu through this whole program. And now he received the mercy of both Nityananda Prabhu and now Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But his escort of guards were always at home. But he was not able to bear this separation. His father, who was suspecting that he will run away anytime, he doubled the guard. And Raghunath knew he had to be patient and wait for the right time. Now the chance came when one evening, Yadunandan Acharya was the family priest. He took Raghunath to perform a family ritual. Now, confident that the boy was in good hands, the guards went to sleep early that night. However, when the priest's attention was diverted, what Raghunath did was he told the priest that I'll get the work, you continue and carry on with your work, I'll get a Brahmana to do the job, I'll get the Brahmana to perform the ritual. So then Yadunandan told him, okay, are you really going to do that? Raghunath said, yes, you don't worry. So what Raghunath did was that he told one Brahmana to do the ritual and then he ran. He escaped. Now where he went is that he went in the opposite direction. For 30 miles he went in an opposite direction. Because he knew that his father and the guards, when they would come to know that he would have run, then they would also know that he would be running to Puri. So then they would go on the road to Puri. So he went in the opposite direction, 30 miles, and there he found a cow shed and he slept there that night. And his only thought was, how am I going to reach Jagannath Puri to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and get in time for the Rath Yatra festival? This is what Raghunath Das Goswami was thinking. He knew that Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, all these great Vaishnavas will be there. So he, on foot, traveled for 12 days and he reached Jagannath Puri. Just imagine traveling from almost Saptagram or from Mayapur area to Puri by foot 12 days. He traveled continuously, ate only 2 or 3 meals. Finally, he arrives at Jagannath Puri and he goes directly to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he clasps the lotus feet of the Lord. And Mahaprabhu is so happy to see his servant once again that he embraces him. And then Mahaprabhu calls out his private secretary, who was known as Swarup Damodar. So Swarup Damodar, he told him that please take Raghunath and treat him as your very son. Please take care of Raghunath. And in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully accepted Raghunath Das Goswami into the family of devotees. And all the Vaishnavas were very amazed at the good fortune of Raghunath Das Goswami, that he was finally accepted by Mahaprabhu. So, under the care of Swarup Damodar, Raghunath was able to honor the sacred remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every day. Later on, he switched to taking the simple remnants from the Jagannath temple, just enough to keep the body and soul together. He slept very little, and whole day and night he used to chant the holy name of Krishna and devotedly serve Mahaprabhu. So after some time went by, his family heard of his whereabouts and his severe austerities. So they were very afflicted, very shocked that what kind of austerities is our child doing. His mother told his father that get him back and tie him up. Will not allow him to go. So his father said that if riches like Indra and a wife more beautiful than an Apsara cannot hold him, then how can ordinary ropes tie? Was such a statement. He said that that riches like Indra, such a vast property, so much of wealth, and all and only son, and such a beautiful wife, but nothing can tie him up. So what can a few ropes tie? So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was so famous for his renunciation. His family sent cooks and a place for, they arranged a place for him to stay. They arranged some servants also. So first of all, Raghunath Das, he turned away from these gifts. But out of affection for his doting parents, he accepted the treasure so that he can use it in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is an important lesson that whether we like it or not, whatever we receive through our karma, through our past karma, whatever Krishna sends, we should just be very neutral towards it, thinking that all of this is sent by the Lord to be used in His service. So if we have this mood, then there is no problem. Always use everything for the Lord's service. So Raghunath, he continued to accept regular gifts from his family. What he used to do is through the cook, he used to make different elaborate preparations and invite Mahaprabhu to come and take prasad at his place. After a few years, he stopped that also. And in this way, Raghunath, he increased his renunciation, he gave back the gifts. He wanted to avoid becoming very attached to anything material. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was very impressed by Raghunath Das's devotion, his renunciation, he awarded him with two of his personal possessions. Items Mahaprabhu gave him. One was a stone from a Govardhan Shila, a stone from Govardhan Hill. And the other one was a garland of small conch shells from Vrindavan. So Raghunath Das gratefully received these gifts. And as the years progressed, Raghunath Das's austerities increased to the point wherein he only drank buttermilk, wherein, but without fail, he used to drink only little buttermilk or chas every day. But without fail, he used to offer 1,000 obeisances to the Lord and 2,000 obeisances to the Vaishnavas every day. Just as a part of his sadhana, Raghunath Das Goswami, what he used to do, he used to offer 1,000 obeisances, 1,000 times in a day. He used to offer dandavats to the Lord and 2,000 times to the Vaishnavas. And he would also chant 100,000 holy names. So he was hardly there was any after with this kind of a sadhana program. 22 hours of the day were engaged in reading, hearing, chanting, offering obeisances. Raghunath Das Goswami. In 1.5 to 2 hours, he used to finish everything else. So he developed such great spiritual power that sages would travel all over from India just to hear his instructions. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he had been in Puri for 16 years when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. And before going, he had instructed Raghunath to move to Vrindavan to help Rupa and Sanatana with their service of writing, constructing temples, and discovering holy sites. So at the age of 40, Raghunath moved to Vrindavan and he spent the remainder of his life following these instructions. So Raghunath Das Goswami, there are a few pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami which are also very special. Once it so happened that Raghunath Das Goswami, when he shifted to Vrindavan, he went to Radhakund. If you see today also at Radhakund, Raghunath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi both are present. So in Radhakund, Raghunath Das Goswami, he was so austere that he was performing his bhajan. That means he was chanting Hare Krishna without any bhajan kutir. That means he did not have any place where he was performing his chanting and he was doing his bhajan and sadhana. So he was just doing it directly on the sun. One day Sanatana Goswami came to meet him. Sanatana Goswami, who also used to live in Vrindavan, and he used to perform Govardhan Parikrama every day. So he happened to come to meet Raghunath Das Goswami. And what did he see? He saw that there were tigers who were roaming around Raghunath, a little far away, but there were tigers roaming, and none other than Krishna himself was standing with a stick protecting Raghunath from the tigers. And Raghunath is just deeply observed. He is chanting Hare Krishna, eyes closed, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So, and as soon as when Sanatan Goswami saw that, he was so shocked, and he looked. Is it really Krishna? He saw Krishna, and Krishna smiled at him and disappeared. Raghunath Das goes all the way. Sanatan Goswami goes to Raghunath Das Goswami and he says, Raghunath Das, what are you doing? Krishna, you are not holding, you are not having a bhajan kutir, and there are dangerous animals here. At that time, you see, with Radha Kund, Govardhan was the forest, and there were wild animals also, ferocious beasts who were there. So Sanatan Goswami chastised him. He said, what are you doing? You are chanting Hare Krishna. You are asking Krishna for service, and Krishna is coming and guarding you. You are taking service from Krishna. Better make a bhajan kutir. So this event passed by. Just imagine, to protect Raghunath Das Goswami's bhajan, Krishna himself came. One time, another time, Sanatan Goswami, while Raghunath Das Goswami at Radha Kund, he was performing bhajan. So at that time Sanatan Goswami came there, and what did he see? He saw that Raghunath Das had still not made a bhajan kutir, and he was chanting very intensely, absorbed. It was so hot. So the Vrindavan sun in summer is so hot, and he also saw that covering Raghunath Das Goswami was a very beautiful young girl with a choli. With her choli, she was covering, shielding, protecting Raghunath Das Goswami from the sun. And when Sanatan Goswami looked closely, he saw that this girl is none other than Srimati Radharani. And when he saw that this is none other than Radharani, Radharani looked at Sanatan, and she disappeared. Sanatan came closer, and Sanatan Goswami saw that there was a big pool of sweat. Right where Srimati Radharani was standing, there was a big pool of sweat there. He tells Raghunath Das, what are you doing? You are chanting Hare Krishna and you are begging Krishna for service. You are begging Radharani for service. And here you see Radharani herself is coming to shield you from the sun. You are supposed to ask for service and render service. You are taking service from them. So then Raghunath Das Goswami, after this incident, he finally built a bhajan kutir. So what happened is that Raghunath Das, when he used to chant, since he used to only take a little buttermilk in the day and have nothing else, he became very thin and emaciated, and his health went bad. So some devotees, they brought some Vaid, some doctors, to check Raghunath Das's condition. So they checked this because his health went bad. So they asked what is wrong with him. So when the doctors checked Raghunath Das Goswami, they said that he has some stomach problem. He has indigestion problem because he is eating too much. He is eating too much of sweet, especially milk, and therefore he is having indigestion. He is having a stomach problem. And the devotees are confused, thinking, how is it possible? Raghunath Das Goswami doesn't eat anything. He hardly eats a little. He takes a little buttermilk in the day. How is he going to have the stomach problem, indigestion? That also because of taking so much of milk and kheer and other milk products. How is it possible? And then they asked Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami mentioned that, you see, when he used to chant Hare Krishna, he used to go so much in samadhi. He was conscious of his pastimes that were happening in the spiritual world. So there, it so happened that one of the maidservants of Srimati Radharani had made very nice, thick, condensed milk. She had made a kheer with camphor, with elaichi, and with all other very nice, nicely made sweet rice, nicely made kheer. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was tasting that kheer, and he developed indigestion here. So in this way, such pastimes were by these acharyas. They underwent such kind of leelas. They were having this kind of reciprocation by the Lord. Raghunath Das Goswami written so many books like Mana Shiksha, and he's written so many poems also. And we can find his writings. they have been translated even in ISKCON by His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. So Raghunath Das Goswami was again very special acharya who left this world. Raghunath Das Goswami, when he was in Radhakund, the Radhakund is the most special place for bhajan. It is most dear to Srimati Radharani. It was Raghunath Das Goswami who was instrumental in the formula in making and renovation of Shamkund and Radhakund both. Because at that time Radhakund and Shamkund were just two ponds. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there, when we go to that place, that Imli Tala, that place, the Imli tree under which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat, and his feet, he touched the paddy field. So that pool, because Mahaprabhu got so much of ecstasy, he concluded that this must be none other than the most sublime and holiest of all places in the world, which is Radhakund. So that time, Sriman Mahaprabhu, then he after that he sends Rup, Sanatan, Raghunath Das, all these great Goswamis, he sends them to unearth and rediscover the lost places of past times. So when Raghunath Das Goswami he was staying at Radhakund, then he happened to renovate these places. Krishna himself sent a very rich man who sponsored the renovation of Radhakund and Shamkund. In fact, while the construction work was going on of these kunds, so at that time, in his dream, the five Pandavas came and said that we are doing bhajan on the banks of Shamkund. So please don't cut us, let us remain here. And so these five trees are still present where the Pandavas are there. And therefore, Shamkund is not straight. It's not, you see, Radhakund is a rectangle. That's how it's been constructed. But Shamkund is very crooked because they had to keep the trees there because they had come in the tree. The Pandavas were performing bhajan there. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was the one who was instrumental for this great task of renovating, establishing the glory of Radhakund and Shamkund. He even wrote poems on the glorification of Mahima of Radhakund. Raghunath Das Goswami, his contribution towards Gaudiya Vaishnava literature is also very deep by writing so many special books. So that was something about Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami also, he used to, every day he used to narrate Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So while he was at Radhakund, every day he used to have at least 2 hours of katha, wherein he used to narrate about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Because Raghunath Das also had Swarup Damodar's diary. So Swarup Damodar, who was the private secretary of Mahaprabhu, everything he knew, and therefore Raghunath Das had access to the best of the pastimes. And he himself stayed with Mahaprabhu for such a long time. So every day there used to be Gaur Katha. And every day one who used to come to listen was none other than Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami used to come and listen to the narrations of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela from the lotus mouth of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. And he made notes. And those notes became the foundation for the holiest of all books, the holiest of all biographies, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the life history of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which our Srila Prabhupada has so mercifully translated and given to us. So it was all, and the condition when Krishnadas Kaviraj was going to write, the condition was that Raghunath Das did not want his name to come there. And Krishnadas Kaviraj had taken permission from all the Vaishnavas. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he did not want that any kind of name and fame should touch him. And therefore he did not want his name to come. And therefore Krishnadas Kaviraj, he is only praying to Rup and Raghunath. He says, Rup Raghunath Pade Hoibe Akuti. He says that Rupa always falling at the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath. He always says we are following Rupa and Raghunath in their footsteps. So that was about something about Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, whose divine appearance day is today. Something about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he was born at Nadia, and he happened to be, he took initiation from Radharaman Chakravarti, who was in the line of Narottam Das Thakur. So therefore in the parampara also, if you see, so from Narottam Das Thakur, then if you go ahead, you see the next, then it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So while still a boy, he was expert at Sanskrit, at poetry. And while he was still a young boy, his parents married him to a very beautiful young girl. But he had no interest in material life. He left home and he journeyed to Vrindavan and he stayed there at Radhakund. So after some years, Vishwanath returned home to visit his family. His guru Radharaman, he spoke to Vishwanath. He said, "My dear disciple, you have been away long, and we all missed you very much, especially your wife. You are fully grown now. You must do your duty. You sleep in the same bed as your wife today." Like this, the guru also tested him. So after sunset, Vishwanath followed his guru's order. He entered the wife's bed, but throughout the night he was awake and he was chanting Krishna's names without stopping. The whole night, all that he did was chant Krishna's name. So then, in the next day, when the news of this reached his guru, Radharaman's ears, he was very pleased. He could understand that this disciple was very serious about spiritual life. Radharaman, he invited Vishwanath to his own house to copy the entire 80,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam by hand. So Vishwanath, he enthusiastically agreed. And while Vishwanath Chakravarti was writing, it so happened that when there was scorching sun, that time there used to be mysteriously and miraculously, Vishwanath Chakravarti was shaded. There used to be some kind of cloud, and the direct scorching sun never used to fall on him. When there used to be rain, that time also the rain never used to fall on him. It used to fall everywhere, but it never used to fall on him. That is what is mentioned. So he continued to write continuously, and uh, everybody thought that he must have been personally protected by God. So then after that, he later on the order of his guru, he went back to Vrindavan. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he composed the famous poem Guru Ashtakam. And just like every day we sing this Mangalarti, we sing this Samsara Dava Nalalidha Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Gana Tvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam. So that is composed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So therefore, you see these acharyas, they have a great significance in our lives, because we are actually following what they have written. We are following their mood. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he was worshipping the deities of Radha Gokulananda, and that is one of the temples that we always go to. One of the Goswami temples in Vrindavan that we go to. The 7 Goswami temples are there in Vrindavan. Radha Govindev, the deities were of Rupa Goswami, and Radha Damodar, deities of Jiva Goswami. That was also the meeting place of all the 6 Goswamis. And Radha Madan Mohan, the deities of Sanatan Goswami. And then Radha Sham Sundar, deities of Shamanand Pandit. Radha Gopina, deities of Madhu Pandit. And also Radha Gokulanand, Radha Raman, the deities of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and finally Radha Gokulanand, the deities of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also worshipped Giriraj Shila, which belonged to Raghunath Das Goswami, which belonged to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is also there. If you see that Giriraj Shila is there with Mahaprabhu's and his fingerprint is there. So till today you can take darshan of that in Radha Gokulanand temple. Now what had happened is that this was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was a little later than Mahaprabhu's time. This was the year around 1700, and all these Goswamis and their immediate successors for the next 2-3 generations had left already. And this left Vishwanath Chakravarti as the leader of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And but what had happened is that immediately after Jiva Goswami left, then there was a lot of trouble left this world. Then there was a lot of trouble in terms of the Vaishnava Siddhanta, because there was disagreement about what he had written. Because in many of Jiva Goswami's books, he followed Lord Chaitanya's teachings that Radha and Krishna were unmarried lovers. However, many of the Jiva Goswami's followers were not so spiritually advanced to appreciate the spotless purity of Radha and Krishna and their love. And for this reason, he encouraged them to worship Radha and Krishna as a married couple. So in this way, they would not create offenses. So it saves immature devotees from offenses, because only advanced devotees can understand such a subject matter. So misunderstanding the purpose of Jiva Goswami, his followers started publicly denying. They started publicly denying that Radha and Krishna were in fact unmarried. So they started saying everyone that Radha and Krishna were married in this way. Now, as the Vaishnava leader, it was the job of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to clear up this misunderstanding. So, what he did in a public meeting, he quoted many scriptures proving that Radha and Krishna were not married. And in this way, his opponents were defeated completely, and the meeting was brought to a close. And this enraged the troublemakers so much that they plotted to kill him. They wanted to kill him. And one of them knew that every day Vishwanath Chakravarti goes to a certain forest. He goes to the forest deep inside. One of them knew. So, what they did is, armed with deadly weapons, they went to the same place. But instead of them finding Vishwanath, they found a very young and beautiful girl. She was picking flowers, and upon seeing them, the scholars, other personalities over there, they said that when this girl saw them, she said that I am a maid servant of Radharani and I am picking flowers so that she can make a beautiful garland for Krishna. And then in a moment, she mysteriously vanished, and Vishwanath appeared in her place. And these murderer scholars, they realized that the young girl was none other than Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, spiritual form of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Immediately their hearts changed, realizing their grave error. And they put down their weapons and they hung their heads and they apologized, saying, "Please be merciful, please forgive us." And Vishwanath Chakravarti forgave them, and eventually they all became his disciples. He just converted them in this way. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti had hundreds of disciples. The best amongst them was Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, who is famous for writing the Govinda Bhashya. This masterpiece, because what had happened is that in that time, now Vishwanath Chakravarti was very old and he was not personally able to go. And Gaudiya Vaishnavism did not have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So, without a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, then the Sampradaya is not authorized, it is not accepted. So there was no commentary. So then Gaudiya Vaishnavism was in trouble, and many other scholars of other sampradayas were not accepting. So somebody had to go and represent. So who will do? So then it was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur who sent his disciple Baldev Vidyabhushan to the place, and Baldev Vidyabhushan, he wrote the Govinda Bhashya commentary, which was dictated to him by none other than Radha Govindev, who was sitting in Jaipur. And that there is a place called Galtaji. Galtaji is near Jaipur, and I remember visiting that place. That is also the seat of the Sri Vaishnava Ramanandi Sampradaya in the northern part of India, because generally they are there in the south. So this place is there, which is their Bethak, which is their seat actually, Pitha. And it was there that this debate took place, and Baldev Vidyabhushani presented the commentary of Govinda Bhashya. So this is the most famous aspect and most famous contribution that of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Okay, so also we will discuss something. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he is in the disciplic line from Narottam Das Thakur, and in the Krishna Leela, his form is that of Vinod Manjari. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami, his form is that of Rasa Manjari. So the form of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is that of Vinod Manjari. These Manjaris, they are assistants to the Sakhis. They are assistants to the maidservants of Srimati Radharani, who perform different services so as to bring the couple closer, so as to bring Radha and Krishna, to assist them in their pastimes. That is what they do. So they are Manjaris. So also, because Vasant Panchami, as we are discussing, is the appearance day of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and also that of Vishnu Priya Devi, who is the eternal consort of Sriman Mahaprabhu. Because all the manifestations of the Lord have three Shaktis, which are Shri Shakti, Bhu and Nila. So Lakshmi Priya Devi, she was the Shri Shakti of Mahaprabhu. Lakshmi Priya, Mahaprabhu's first wife. And Vishnu Priya is the manifestation of his Bhu Shakti. And Navadvip Dham is his Leela Shakti. So now what happened is that Lakshmi Priya Devi, untimely, she left this world. So Sachi Mata, she started looking for another wife for her young son, who Mahaprabhu at that time, Nimai Pandit, was around 17 or 18. And she consulted Kashinath Pandit for this. Kashinath was a very well-known matchmaker, and he is in the Gaur Ganodadesh Deepika, he is mentioned as the same Brahmin who in Krishna Leela, his name was Pulaka, who was sent by Maharaj Satyajit to arrange the marriage between his daughter Satyabhama and Krishna. So some regard basically Vishnu Priya is none other than the expansion of Satyabhama Devi. So Kashinath Pandit then goes to the home of Sanatan Mishra to arrange the marriage between Nimai and his daughter, the devotionally minded Vishnu Priya. So from her early childhood, Vishnu Priya Devi was always devoted to Lord Vishnu and every day taking Ganga bath 3 times daily. She regularly saw Mother Sachi there, paid her obeisances to her, received her blessings. So in this way, Mother Sachi knew about Vishnu Priya Devi's good qualities. So she was happy to agree to this proposal. So then it was decided that Vishwambara and Vishnu Priya would be married, and auspicious day and time were fixed for this ceremony. So then the Adivas rituals were carried out previous day, and the Lord arrived at the Sanatan Mishra's house in a palanquin, and then their wedding ceremony was performed according to the scriptural traditions. And next day, Vishnu Priya joined her husband, and they returned to her house. So it so happened that after the marriage, Mahaprabhu goes to Gaya and he meets Sri Ishwarapuri and he receives initiation from Ishwarapuri. After Mahaprabhu received initiation from Ishwarapuri, so he was a changed man when he returned back because he used to then start crying for Krishna and wept, always weeping. And both Mother Sachi and Vishnu Priya anxiously they were witnessing Mahaprabhu's increasing ecstasy and how he used to forget himself while performing bhakti. So, in fact, when time passed by, that they heard the rumors that Nimai Pandit may take sannyas. And Mother Sachi felt that her life would end. She felt unconscious to the ground when she heard this rumor. Later on, when she spoke about this topic to Mahaprabhu, Nimai, it was confirmed. Mahaprabhu confirmed it, saying, "Yes, I'm ready. I'm going to take sannyas." And she is crying, reasoning with Nimai that after the death of your father and your elder brother Sannyas, only by looking at your face I have survived. If you also leave, then I will die. She's crying. So, as Mother Sachi, she tried to stop him in various ways. But Nimai listened quietly with his head bowed. Realizing that his mother would not survive, he took her aside and revealed to her his identity and hers also. He told her that previously her name had been Aditi and he was Vamana. And then when she was known as Devahuti, he had come as Kapila. And as Kaushalya, he was born as Ramchandra. And he was born again as her son Krishna when she was Devaki in Dwapar Yuga. Mahaprabhu then told his mother that he had disclosed this most confidential secret to her so that she could fulfill her role in his mission. So he told her, in my form as the deity, you are my mother as the earth. In my form as the holy names, you are my mother as the tongue. In this way, birth after birth, you are always been my mother and you are never really separated. Still, Mother Sachi was plunged into an ocean of sorrow. Now, a similar thing happened with Vishnu Priya Devi. Vishnu Priya Devi was 8 or 9 at the time of her marriage, as was the custom, and she remained in her parents' home until she came of age and she came into to her husband's place at 12 or 13. And her separation from Nimai took place hardly a year later when she was 14 and Mahaprabhu was 24. So, although Vishnu Priya Devi was his wife, Mahaprabhu hardly spoke to her, especially after he returned from Gaya when he took Harinam Diksha from Ishwarapuri because his personality changed. He was no longer Nimai Pandit, and then people started calling him Bhavuk Nimai, the one Nimai who is always absorbed in ecstatic moods of Krishna Prema. At this time, however, some of the inhabitants of Navadvip, some of the students and former teachers in the school, they became unfavorable towards Nimai. And Nimai thought that, see, I came here to give the supreme medicine for everyone's benefit, which is for everyone's material disease. Bhav Rog, I'm giving the Aushadhi, the medicine. But these people are not listening to me. I should take sannyas because they will respect me. So this was what Mahaprabhu thought. And at that time, sannyasis were very much respected. So he thought that what is happening is because one day Mahaprabhu in his class, he was chanting Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. So his students, they told him, don't say Gopi, Gopi, say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. The moment Mahaprabhu heard this, he came into so much of a bhav that he started chastising those students and took a stick and began running after the students. And he told them, "How dare you tell that debauchee's name? How dare you tell that name of that debauchee?" And then, because he was speaking like this about Krishna, so then the students told him, "How can you speak like this? We are also Brahmins. How you can tell? How you can blaspheme the Supreme Lord?" So then they started offending him, and he went and ran behind the students, and they ran and they went. They chased. He chased them away. They went to their other teachers. They went to their families, and they told that Nimai Pandit is running behind us like this with a stick, wanting to beat us. What does he think of himself? We are also Brahmins, and then they started offending him in this way. So Mahaprabhu thought that the medicine, I came here to give the medicine of Krishna Prema. That is only becoming the poison because these people aren't taking. So then he thought that I should take sannyas. So when he decided to take sannyas, Vishnupriya Devi, she had gone to bathe in the Ganges. And when she was on the way there, she accidentally stubbed her toe on a stone and it was injured and started bleeding. And then while she was in bathing there, the nose ring that she had received on the day of her marriage, which is very auspicious for a wife, also fell in the Ganges. So she searched for it, but she did not get it at all. And she started crying because this is all bad omens. So when she returned home, Sachi Mata asked her, "Why are you crying?" He said, "I went to bathe in the Ganges, foot was injured, I lost my nose ring. I think there's something bad going to happen." Can you mute everyone, please? Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had previously paid practically no attention to her, but that night he decorated her hair, placed betel nuts in her mouth, and that morning he had gone to visit and meet with all his associates. And he had taken some milk. He had also got Loki sabji from Sridhar. He used to always fight and jokingly quarrel with Sridhar. So he got his sabji also, and then when he returned home in the evening, he told Sachi Mata, make this preparation, add sugar, ghee, camphor, other ingredients, offer it to Krishna. So he honored that prasad, and after which he entered the room of Vishnu Priya. Then he, with love and affection, decorated her, gave her a beautiful garland, placed betel nuts in her mouth, engaged in a very nice conversation with her. So Vishnu Priya was perplexed that what is this? How come my fate has changed completely? Thinking like this, she sat and gently she was massaging his feet. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu opened his eyes, and when he felt her tears on his feet, then he said, "Oh, Goddess, you are very dear to me. Why are you weeping?" Vishnu Priya is crying and crying. Mahaprabhu asked again and again, but she wouldn't say anything. Holding his feet with both her arms, she is crying. Then Mahaprabhu, who is the Paramatma, he told her very sweet words, calmed her down. And finally, Vishnu Priya said, "See, everything is meant to please you. If you leave, then what will I do with my life?" So Mahaprabhu, he was neither unaware nor indifferent to his dearest devotees. He also cried. Finally, he revealed the secret of his birth and mission. So wiping her tears with his garment, he told her that, "See, Lord Krishna is the supreme husband. Your name is Vishnu Priya, she who is dear to Vishnu. Please make your name true to yourself. Don't torment yourself uselessly, needlessly with the worries of the world or what people will say. Dedicate your mind and body to serving Hari." Then Lord Garanga manifested his four-armed Narayan form. He displayed his Maya Shakti, made Vishnu Priya forget her pain. And then he told her that, "I give you special mercy. Whenever, oh Goddess, whenever you remember me, I will come to you. I promise you." So somehow then Yogamaya entered Vishnu Priya's eyes in the form of sleepiness. She did not want to fall asleep, but somehow she, by the power of Yogamaya, she fell asleep. Mahaprabhu glanced at her once and then stood up to leave home and take sannyas. And before dawn, rising from his bed where Vishnu Priya lay, Mahaprabhu finished his morning rituals, touching the feet of his mother, who sat like a stone at the doorway. Her eyes were open, unable to move. Mahaprabhu left Navadvip and crossed Ganga. So in this way, Mahaprabhu took sannyas. Vishnu Priya lived her life in the slow burning agony of the separation from Gauranga after his departure. Every day, she always remained in the house except for taking bath in the Ganga. And she led a very strict spiritual life and looked after Sachi Devi, who was very heartbroken and devastated after her son's departure. And devotees, they could never see anything more than her feet, and she would never they could not even hear her voice. Constantly she was crying and eating only Mother Sachi's remnants. She was only chanting all day. uh, uh, she was chanting Harinam whole day. And what she would do, for every 16 syllable, whenever she used to complete one Mahamantra, she used to place a grain of rice aside. And when she completed her chanting, then in the early afternoon, she would cook whatever rice was collected in this manner. Just imagine how many times if you chant Hare Krishna, uh, that many particles of the of grain of rice used to carry, cook that and offer it to the Lord and serve Sachi Mata, and after that eat the remnants. So Vamshivadan Thakur and Ishan Thakur were having the service of taking care of Vishnu Priya Devi and Sachi Devi after Mahaprabhu took sannyas. So Vishnu Priya Devi had abandoned food and drink also. Mahaprabhu came to her in a dream, asking her to have a deity of himself carved from the wood of the Margosa tree under which Sachimata had sat to suckle him. So that tree, there was this deity made, and that deity was very special. It is still today. It is worshipped in Navadvip. That deity is there, which Vishnu Priya Devi worshipped. It is still there. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he relates this pastime in Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. He said that Lord Ram, when in his 14 years of exile, so he visited Ramkili, Ganga Sagar, and Navadvip. He visited Navadvip. So when Lord Ram was observing the beauty of the forest, he began to smile. And Sita asked him why he was smiling. And Ram replied that in the Kali Yuga, I will take birth from the womb of Mother Sachi in Jagannath Mishra's house in the same Navadvip Dham. People will know me as Gauranga and I will charm everyone. I'll perform a lot of special pastimes. And I will preach about Harinam, Sankirtan, and people will go mad by the chanting of these names. I will also change the hearts of these sinners, hard hearted sinners, and give them love of God, which even the demigods don't get. In my youth, I will accept sannyas, after which I will reside in Jagannath Puri. So at that time, my mother Sachi Devi, who is none other than Kaushalya, she will weep, holding her daughter-in-law Vishnu Priya in her arms, and you will be that Vishnu Priya. I will thereafter remain in Puri, and also I will weep for you day and night. So by her devotion and austerity, so Vishnu Priya Devi performed a very important role in the preaching of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Through her acceptance of this, the mood of separation, and her surrender to her Lord's mission, showing her pangs of separation, she helped in establishing the ideal of union of separation, which is actually Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy is union in separation. That means Vipralamba Seva. That means we are always thinking that we are away from Krishna and we are serving him like this. We are away from Guru and being in that separated position, we are serving. So that is the mood of Gaudiya. It's not Sambhoga or union. The mood is service and separation. So this is a very deep thing that Vishnu Priya Devi herself exemplified, and who she is none other than the supreme consort of the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is about Vishnu Priya Devi. So it is a very special day, and these special pastimes are there for our purification. Because you see, one is the book Bhagavad and one is the person Bhagavad. So when we hear about the person Bhagavad, we please Krishna, and by that we get special blessings and mercy. So because today is the special appearance day of these Vaishnavas, let us keeping in mind these Vaishnavas sing a short bhajan and then for the conclusion. So this is a very special bhajan, one of my favorites, which is Ohe Vaishnava Thakura. And so today is the appearance day of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Keeping and praying to Raghunath Das Goswami, we can keep in mind. I'll explain the meaning first. Ohe Vaishnava Thakura, Doyar Sagara E Dase, Koruna Kori. O great Vaishnava, who is an ocean of mercy, please have mercy on this servant of yours. Diya pada chaya shodo he amaya tomara charana dhori. Please give me the shadow of your lotus feet. And I am holding your lotus feet very closely. He says, Chaya bega domi, Chaya dosha shodhi, Chaya deho, Chaya guna deho dase. Chaya sat sanga, shodo he amare, bosheshi sangera ashe. He says, please teach me to control my six passions, this kam, krodh, lobh, mad, maya, matsarya. Please teach me how to control them. Rectify my six faults and bestow upon me the six qualities and offer unto me the six kinds of holy association. Ekaki amara nahi paya bala harinama sankirtane. তুমি কৃপা Yeah. তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম ধনে. So I am alone, ekaki amar, I am alone. I cannot on my own. I don't have the strength to continue this Harinam Sankirtan mission. You please be merciful on me and give me Shraddha Bindu, which is give me that faith by which I can get this the treasure of the holy name. Krishna said, Tomar, Krishna is yours, Krishna dite paro. You have the power to give him to me. Tomara Shakti ache. আমি তো কঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলি ধাই তব পাছে পাছে. So Krishna is yours. I You have the power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you, Krishna. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just running behind you. So this kind of mood we're supposed to have while we are requesting the devotees of the Lord to give their mercy, because it is only by the mercy of the devotees only that we can uh, we will be able to chant the holy names. By chanting the holy names purely, that is the aim of this life. I had once asked His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, what should we pray for? I'd asked, what should we pray for? He asked me we should pray for pure devotional service. And then I was a very new devotee that time, so he told me that, but if you feel that that is too much or too high, then you can pray so that you can chant. You can simply purely chant. So that is the thing. So unless and until how will we be able to chant unless and until we have taste? So therefore we are praying to the Vaishnava Acharyas that please give us taste for chanting the holy name. Please give us your mercy. So we'll chant this bhajan. O he Vaishnava Thakura Doyara Sakara Eda Se Koruna Kori. O he Vaishnava Thakura Doyara Sakara Eda Se Koruna Kori. Diya Pada Chaya Shodo he amai tomara charana dhori. Diya pada chaya shodo he amai tomara charana dhori. Chaya bega domi chaya dosha shodhi chaya guna deho dase. Chaya bega domi chaya dosha shodhi chaya guna deho dase. Chaya sata sanga deho he amare boshe shi sange rache. Chaya sata sanga deho he amare boshe shi sange rache. Ekaki amara nahi paya bala hari nama sankirtane. Ekaki amara nahi paya bala hari nama sankirtane. Tumi kripa kori Shraddha bindu diya deho Krishna nama dhane. Tumi kripa kori Shraddha bindu diya deho Krishna nama dhane. Krishna se tomara Krishna dite paro tomara shakti ache. Krishna se tomara Krishna dite paro tomara shakti ache. यामी तो कंगाल कृष्ण कृष्ण बोली धाई तवा पाछे पाछे ओए वैष्णव ठाकुर दयार सागर ए दासे करुणा करी ओए वैष्णव ठाकुर दयार सागर ए दासे करुणा करी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय श्री रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी आविर्भाव तिथि की विष्णुप्रिया देवी आविर्भाव तिथि की विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर तिरुभाव तिथि की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे ऑल glories to the assembled bodies all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. So we are open for questions. If you have some questions we can take them. Okay, so no questions then. Because anyways, today's session was more of katha than philosophy. Generally, we have questions when there is a philosophical discussion. Because today's session was more of a relishing the story and pastimes of Sir Raghunath Das Goswami, Sir Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Srimati Vishnupriya Devi. So, is that okay? Can we end?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. As always, it's a pleasure to hear you. And some of the aspects and the pastimes that you shared, I've heard this for the first time. So thank you very much.